that's one area where we have to pay attention to placement. Now we're going to look at the passé composé. There's two things that happen with the passé composé. Remember, passé composé is two parts, a helping verb plus a past participle. So that helping verb is going to be important as far as placement with the pronoun. We're actually going to start with our indirect object pronouns here. Claire, je lui ai donné des bijoux. Remember that when we said the past participle and the helping verb function as a unit. So you have your helping verb and past participle. So the past participle is not a verb, and so we're going to put the lui in front of the helping verb. Les étudiants, elles leur ont lu les réponses. So the student, she read the answers to them. Notice that we put the leur in front of the helping verb. In a negative example, we see il ne m'a jamais téléphoné. Where does the ne pas go? And with the passé composé, it goes around the helping verb, and so our placement is still the same. Il ne m'a jamais téléphoné. He never called me. And one last example is looking at inversion. Don't let inversion throw you off. The rule is still the same, and that the pronoun goes in front of the verb, of which it's an object. Now remember that the past participle is not technically a verb, so we're going to put it in front of the helping verb. So if I wanted to say, did you really write the president? We would say, as-tu écrit? And where it would say to him, it would go in front of the helping verb. So nothing has changed, except we just inverted it. Now the reason why we looked at these first is just for you to really get a hang of placement. But let's look at the direct objects because we have one more thing to look at. If I want to say Paul, the server did not help him. Notice that Paul is a person, but it's a direct object because aider does not require the preposition a. So we are going to say le serveur ne l'a pas aidé. The placement is the same as that it goes in front of the helping verb. Notice where the ne pas has gone. Now our next example, we're going to have to take it a step further. Mes chaussures, je les ai achetées en France. I bought them in France. Notice that we use les, a direct object pronoun, because the shoes is the direct object. We haven't changed anything, it goes in front of the helping verb. However, we have to take it one step further, and the les is going to make agreement with the past participle, and we're going to add an es onto the past participle. So we see je les ai achetées en France. Let's see another example. Ses devoirs, il les a perdus. The les goes in front of the helping verb, and we're also going to add an s to agree with the les. Now notice that when we were on the indirect object side, we did not make any agreement with the past participle. So in the example, les étudiants, elles leur ont lu les réponses, the leur is plural, but you do not make agreement with lu because it's an indirect object pronoun. However, you do make agreement with lu, la, and les in the passé composé. This is where it's also important that you know the difference between me, te, nous, vous as direct or indirect. So over on the indirect object pronoun side, when we see the example, il ne m'a jamais téléphoné, he never called me. Well, I am a girl, but notice I did not make agreement with téléphoner because me in this particular case is an indirect object. Whereas in our example here on the left side, je vous ai invité à ma boum, I invited you to my party. In this particular case, the vous is a direct object because I invited you. And so we would add an s to invité to make agreement with that. Take a moment to read the examples and make sure you understand the placement and make sure you understand when we are making agreement. So you only make agreement with direct object pronouns in the past participle. Now, the question that you might have, or something we want to clarify, is remember when we were studying the passé composé without these pronouns, that you make agreement when être is the helping verb with the subject and the past participle. So I've bolded the key words. When être is the helping verb, the subject makes agreement with the past participle. That's why you don't make agreement with the subject when avoir. So what is different here? What's different here is that the direct object pronoun is making agreement with the past participle. Notice that it's just the direct object pronoun. So not a direct object noun, but a direct object pronoun. So one thing to note is, remember that être cannot take a direct object. So anytime you have a direct object pronoun, avoir will always be the helping verb. Okay, so this video had memorize. You need to know your grammar terms. You need to be able to distinguish between a subject, direct, and indirect object, because that is how I will help you check your work when you're writing. You're going to mess up a couple times. You're going to pick the wrong pronoun. That's going to happen because as English speakers, it's just going to happen. So this is how I'm going to help you evaluate your work and make sure you can avoid these mistakes as much as possible. And then the other thing that you really have to study is the placement, the placement, the placement. So that is strictly memorization. So you can even write them out like formulas, and that's something that I can show you in class. Okay?